Well, we have made it. It is Christmas Day. I hope you are having the best day, and I get the honour and the privilege of reading to you chapter 25 of our special book, How Winston Delivered Christmas. This chapter is called Hot Buttered Toast. Even before he'd opened his eyes, Winston knew that something very strange and unusual had happened. The last thing he could remember was being outside in the freezing cold with the angry wind and snow roaring all around him. And he remembered being tired, very tired indeed, and freezing cold too, the sort of cold that makes you feel frozen from the inside out. But that wasn't the case now at all. Winston was, he considered it for a moment. He was snuggly, really warm and cosy, and yes, very snuggly indeed. He sniffed. His whiskers wobbled with excitement. What was that lovely smell? It smelled like someone very nearby was cooking something very delicious. Where on earth was he? He opened his eyes and looked around him and gasped. What had happened? He wasn't outside on the street in a hidey hole, which was where he woke up most mornings. He was in a bed. A perfect little mouse-sized bed with a soft flannel sheet, a thick blanket and two great big plump pillows. There was even a little patchwork quilt keeping him toasty. Winston wiggled his toes and looked around. He seemed to be in a little bedroom in a house where everything was just the right size for him. There was tiny books, a small armchair, and as Winston peeked over to look down the side of his bed, on the floor was a pair of tiny slippers which Winston knew, just from looking at them, would fit his feet perfectly. What is this lovely place? He wondered. A house made just for a mouse? Was he still asleep? Was he dreaming? Then he heard a noise. A great stampede of thuds and whoops and footsteps and voices. Human voices. Now be careful on those stairs, Oliver. What on earth has got you so giddy this morning? There were some very excited squeaking noises before Winston heard, What letter, Oliver? Oliver? Thought Winston. Who was Oliver? Just then there was a rattling noise. It sounded like someone was right outside his room. Winston burrowed down deep and beneath his bed cover so only his eyes were peeking out over the top of his blanket. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The entire far wall of his room swung open and a little boy's face appeared. The little boy was in his pyjamas and his curly hair was sticking wildly up on end. His cheeks were bright pink and his eyes were sparkling with excitement. Mum! Dad! He cried. Come and see! In the doll's house there's a mouse! A real mouse fast asleep in the attic! There followed a great commotion as more faces joined the little boy to peer in at Winston. Two were grown-up faces and the other was a smaller face. All belonged to humans in pyjamas and dressing gowns, and everyone looked like they had jumped out of bed in a great hurry. Goodness, said a grown-up face with a bristly moustache under his nose. There is a mouse in the doll's house. Father Christmas said in his letter that I would find a friend in a doll's house. And it's a mouse, squeaked the little boy. What letter, Oliver? Said the other's grown-up face. This one didn't have a moustache, but had its hair up in a headscarf. The other very small face didn't say anything. She was too busy sucking on the sleeve of her nightie. The little boy quickly handed over a small sheet of paper. This letter, he said, shivering with excitement. It's from Father Christmas. I found it in my stocking this morning. Look! The two grown-ups read the letter. As they did, their eyes grew bigger and bigger with astonishment. Dear Oliver, thank you for your letter. I believe it had rather an exciting journey to get to me, but the important thing is it found me in the end. I understand from your note that what you would like more than anything this Christmas is a friend, someone to go on adventures with. If you go downstairs and peek in at the attic bedroom of that lovely doll's house, you will find a little someone there waiting for you. He should be very friendly, should be a very suitable friend for you. He's really good at adventuring. I should think he'll be fast asleep when you find him. He's had quite a tiring evening. Take great care of each other. I look forward to reading about all your adventures together in your letter next Christmas, although maybe popping it in the post a bit earlier next year. With best Christmassy wishes, your friend Father Christmas. Well, I never, Oliver, exclaimed the grown-up with the moustache. A mouse? The little boy beamed. I think you'd better go and get dressed, and then our new friend here can join us in the kitchen for breakfast, said the grown-up with the moustache. Do you think he'd like some hot buttered toast? He does rather look like he'd do with a good meal, said the other grown-up, smiling. Oliver told his new friend that he'd be back for him as soon as he was dressed, and had brushed his hair, and one of the grown-ups added, and the whole family scampered off to get ready for the day. When he was quite alone, Winston sat up and blinked. He wasn't a street mouse anymore. He had a warm home, and if the lovely smells were to be believed, a yummy breakfast, lunch and dinner ahead of him. He also had a friend called Oliver. How extraordinary! Something crinkled at the foot of the bed, and Winston scrambled about the blankets until he found what it was. A stocking, a little mouse-sized stocking, and in it was a tiny letter written in the smallest mouse-sized writing he'd ever seen. Dear Winston, thank you so much for delivering Oliver's letter to me. I can only imagine what sort of evening you've had trying to deliver it. It must have been very exciting but dangerous too. What a kind, brave mouse you are. For such a tiny creature, you have an enormous heart, one which understands that nobody should ever be left out or forgotten, especially at Christmas. Happy Christmas, Winston, and enjoy your new home. With love from Father Christmas. Winston folded the letter carefully and held it very close to his chest. Then he snuggled back down under the blankets in his new bed, in his new house in his new home, and for the first time in his life he felt warm from the tips of his toes to the tips of his nose to the end of his tail. And as he lay there, he wondered what adventures tomorrow would bring. The end. Happy Christmas, Clock House. Enjoy.